Hello, my name's Lorraine, and I'm a writer, journalist. I cover fashion and technology for Fast Company, and also write a column about fashion and tech for the San Francisco Chronicle, and run Digital Style Digest, which is a site about fashion and tech. And I'm really excited to sit up here and hear about social cause and social discovery from you guys. This is a really interesting panel in that the people up here are not all backing social causes and missions that are similar. They're doing it in really different ways. And I think social cause organizations and companies have really been at the forefront of leveraging social to spread their message. And they have a lot of interesting takeaway messages and lessons that can be learned for mainstream brands and retailers and other types of businesses. So I'm excited to ask you guys some questions, and I hope that we can kind of go in sort of a conversational format, so feel free to jump in. I'm going to throw some questions out there, but I know that people out here would love to hear what you guys have to say to each other, as well as how you respond to me.
So we can argue?
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, get physical. But yeah, if we can just start off with everybody giving a brief intro, who you are and what you do, that'd be great.
You starting here?
Yeah.
So I'm Jody Sherman. I'm the founder of a company called Ecomom. We're an e-commerce site. We're basically a store for families who are trying to make healthy choices.
My name's Sean Carasso. I run Falling Whistles. We're a campaign for peace in Congo. So we sell a whistle as a symbol of protest, ask people to be whistleblowers for peace. And then we're able to use that money to invest in visionaries and entrepreneurs who are working inside the deadliest war in the world, rehabilitating their communities, starting businesses, building technology, all sorts of different things, and then build a coalition of people around the world who want to see an end to the war, who want to see peace.
Your company sounds way more awesome than my company.
Way more awesome. Yeah, totally.
We also feed children every time we receive an order.
Jody was in the Navy. He's really exciting.
So my name is Ellie, Cachette, and I'm the CEO and founder of Consumer Bell. We do not have bling, but we will help make sure you are safe from harmful bling. We help companies manage product recalls online. So if you're an e-commerce client or a monthly box subscription client, we're protecting your inventory and making sure that you don't ship anything recalled. So we see it as a public health issue. We also see it as a for-profit business. And so with that, we're often seen as a social cause as well as a B2B opportunity.
So I'm Amaryllis Fox, and founded a company called Mulu, which basically empowers you to be sure that your purchases, your recommendations, your activity online can all go to support a cause that's meaningful to you. So one of the things that's really interesting to me about the digital age is the fact that all of these little areas that used to be wasteful can now be aggregated and directed towards something really meaningful. So Mulu is about saying every time you make a purchase online, every time you make a recommendation online, you can capture 10% of the dollar value of that and aggregate that and put it towards a cause that's meaningful to you. So we make content shoppable across all of the major publishing platforms, from Hearst to Universal to Fox and so on. And you can use your own recommendations to earn for your favorite cause as well.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about since knowing that I was going to be moderating this panel is this whole idea of how every single cause, so to speak, that you guys are behind is, and they're all very, very different, whether it be all of the individual organizations that you help get out there, or it's a product recall issue, or the question of what really is environmentally friendly and how to provide that to people, or violence in Congo. They're all very complicated, nuanced issues. They're not simple, and if they were, they wouldn't need organizations like yours and companies like yours behind them. So social media and social discovery, on the other hand, to me often seems like an inherently, it's sort of a way to simplify communication. And I'm curious if you see those things being in conflict, or if you can talk about how you have managed to use this medium that could very well be in conflict with what you're trying to communicate to actually make a positive difference.
So I'll jump in. I think you said something. You said something which is, these are obviously not simple. We need sophisticated social media tools to handle them. I actually disagree. I think maybe they're not sexy. I mean, saving Africa is not sexy. Looking into products that are healthy to use and taking the time to really figure them out isn't sexy. So
I should clarify, I mean that the issues themselves are not simple, and that social media oftentimes reduces conversations to these like soundbite lengths. I certainly didn't mean to imply that social media tools need to be complex or particularly sophisticated in and of themselves, but just that these issues are so, it's very hard to explain why a product, for example, needs to be recalled and what the whole, all the ins and outs are around that issue.
So I think that's the beautiful part about social cause. I think it's the CEO or founder or spokesperson job is to make it simple, make it so that the average person can understand, and that's really, I think, the core of our businesses is we're taking a layered thing that can be too complex or negative or dynamic, and we really need to simplify it, right? So making recalls easy, making healthy products easy, making saving different organizations easy. But that's my 2 cents.
Well, and part of it is refining an elevator pitch or a really simple value proposition that is the headline, right? And the idea there is that can be shared and it compels people and it captures their attention really quickly, and then it can lead them to learn more and really get deeper and get involved. And I think Falling Whistles has done an amazing job of that with such a complex situation on the ground there, and being able to give a headline that people say, that's something I'm going to stop and take notice of, but I want to learn more, and being able to pique their curiosity at the same time as compelling them to care enough to share it, to click through, I think is really the trick.
Yeah, I mean, everything is complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, throwing a conference is complicated. I mean, like, driving down the street, you've got stop lines that are, like, intersecting with other stoplights that are and life is complicated. And, like, how do we learn anything? The best books, they start with a quote, right? That sort of, like, gives you the entire thesis of the book on the first page, and you're like, oh, I want to, and then you go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And it's like you're meeting the Cheshire Cat, and you're meeting the Queen of Hearts, and it's like, and you're sort of like engaging with this whole new world. And let's be honest, like, the war in Congo is the deadliest war on the planet, and it is one of the most complicated geopolitical situations in the history of our planet, right? Cool. A lot of things are hard. A lot of things are complicated. A lot of things take a long time to learn. But, like, how do you begin that process? What makes that rabbit hole so interesting and, like, so attractive and so appealing that you're like, oh, I want to jump down that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I want to, like, see everything that's inside of it. And that's the opportunity with social.
Can you give us some examples of how, with Falling Whistles, you have done that and sucked people down the rabbit hole, so to speak, with different social communication?
Well, I mean, I think that, for us, it's been all about simplicity, right? Because I am a member of my generation. If I don't understand it in 7 seconds, I'm out. Like, I just don't care. The thing about the whistle for me is that, people wear it for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes they wear it out of, like, deep solidarity, and sometimes they wear it because Jay-Z wears it. But what happens is that when you wear it, people will ask you about it. It's a big whistle hanging around your neck. You can't go anywhere without being asked about it, and you don't want to sound stupid, right? Like, you don't want to sound like an idiot, and so all of a sudden, you're fumbling your way through an answer, but you go home and you learn more, and then you go out the next time and you're able to articulate it a little bit better, and you learn more, and you're able to articulate, and what happens is over the course of a month, people go from being sort of like bumbling fools on this complicated issue to being these articulate advocates because of a very, very simple symbol with, like, a very simple punchline, like, and we're able to communicate all that simply and then take people on a long journey towards deep understanding. But if you didn't start here, you would never begin.
Well, and I think that's always the case. Like, I have a 4-year-old, and my true belief is that if you can't make her understand what a company is or why you're doing a certain thing on a given day, it's too complicated or your messaging is wrong, And I mean, she could sit here right now and could say, it's really important that we don't destroy the forests and the world and the oceans around us in order to be fashionable for 10 minutes, right? She would understand that. You could say, it's really important that we help people who are in trouble and being killed in the longest conflict in the world, and it's really important that we don't use products that are dangerous for ourselves and for our family, and it's really important that when people spend money online, they're responsible about making sure that as much of it as possible goes to support something that they find meaningful. So those kinds of hooks, I think, are the tweets, are the on-ramps, right? And then you get deeper and deeper into being able to learn the background.
We found we had a different problem right? We had a cause from the very first day we started our company. We wanted to give back some way, based on our sales. We basically looked at our company like it was a charity, but we're a for-profit charity, and fundraising is sales for us. But we were writing checks to these charities based on our customers writing checks to us. We'd ship products to them. Then we'd take the money, we'd write a check and send it to some charity, and there was no way to connect the dots between the good that these families were doing for their families by buying stuff that was safe to put in, on, and around them, and the good that was going on downstream when we were writing these checks. And we started looking at all of the ways to simplify that, and we did a lot of research. We looked at everybody out there who had a giving program, and we stole a lot of good ideas from the folks at Tom's. And what we learned from them was that the best way to make the message matter was to make it real, make it simple, and make it unbelievable. And for us, it was real. Our customers are moms. Moms feed kids every day. They know what feeding kids is about. So for us, every time you place an order, you feed a kid. It's real, right? Moms know, like I said, they know they have to feed kids, and they know what it's like to have a hungry kid. They don't want their kid crying. They know what it's like to see other kids who are hungry. So it's real. And then unbelievable is you're doing something you're going to do anyway. So your motivation is your family, and you get this like extra creamy goodness, which is that in addition to doing something good for you, you're doing something good for somebody else with no extra cost. And that was the unbelievable part. And then we had to learn how to message that really simply, because that took me a long time to say. So we had to get to one order feeds one child for one day. And then make sure we never, ever say it any differently. It has to be on our packaging. And like you guys, where you ship a box into somebody's home, you're kind of invited into someone's home, which gives you the ability to take the message offline and actually ask people in the real world to take that message with them. So when you're wearing that whistle, you're taking that message around there, around the world with you, and you become an advocate for it. When we ship a box and it's sitting on somebody's porch, there's a message. And when they pull that box into their house, there's a message. And when they open the box, there's a message. And then you can reactivate them to go back online and share your social message if you ask them nicely.
Do you view the social media as just one more sort of equal arm in conveying that message, or does it play a special or more significant or less significant role than, say, your packaging, branding, and other channels that you communicate?
So for us, it's yet another channel, right? I think the most powerful thing we can do is to get somebody to trust us, right? Moms aren't buying because they want to save the planet. Nobody gives a fuck about the planet. They really don't. They care about taking care of their families. I'm sorry, I swear, I can't help it.
The Navy.
It's not the Navy. I have a yuck mouth. People don't wake up in the morning thinking they want to save the planet. They think about wanting to take care of their families. You have a 4-year-old. You probably never thought about the planet over your child.
No, and I think what you're getting at is a really even more fundamental truth, which is that all of the cause has to be gravy, right? Like you have to build something that is so useful that it would be used anyway. And then the cause element on top of it is gravy. And even with what you guys have done with Falling Whistles, you've taken great pains to make sure that these are really cool looking, right? Like somebody's not going to wear a big balloon around their neck because it helps end war in Congo, right? And so I think it is really, really critical to remember that there's only so much goodwill if it doesn't fit into your daily routine and your daily utility. And part of social media's role in that is explaining, hey, you can do this thing that you're going to do anyway, or you can wear this thing that you think looks cool anyway, and it has this really dramatic impact beyond that.
But I think you also have to make the social media aspect of it simple for your customers, right? For the people that you want to amplify your message, you need to know what you're asking them to do, and it needs to be really painless for them to do it. You can't tell them, go out and tell the story of Falling Whistles in 6 paragraphs because they have 140 characters or a sentence that they're willing to share on Facebook. They can't do the same thing with us. So we try to give them something that they can forward, or something to do on the box that says, do this. And this that you ask for needs to be so simple that you're not asking them, there's not like a toll on them for doing it. It's like, well, of course I do this. I'm stoked. I got this box. I'm going to share.
Yeah, we, a couple months ago, I was in the war zone. We spent 3 months in the war zone. And during that time, there's a rebel group called M23 that has been trying to take over the region it's one of the wealthiest regions in the world. It has minerals that end up in our cell phones and our computers. So this rebel group essentially wants to take over the region in order to own the smuggling of these minerals, because they make a lot of money off of it. And so while I'm there, 500,000 people are displaced. You've got the main city, Goma, is evacuated a number of times, in and out. And you've got these sort of like African-based news organizations screaming at the world, right? Like 500,000 people have been displaced. I mean, like thousands and thousands of people are dying every week. This is a massive catastrophic emergency. Some European news is picking it up, especially French-speaking news, but English-speaking news is not talking about it at all, right? Like, we're not hearing it in America at all.
It's also election season.
It's also election season, totally. And so, we made 5 simple slides. They're like little Tumblr boxes. The design is dope. And it just breaks down M23, what's going on, how it happens. We have 100 retailers who are then sharing it with their people, right? We've got there was another, we have more people than this on our list, but we had another 10,000 people sharing it. And it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, we just did the media's job, right? Because it was in a small little box that had good design. And all of a sudden now people know what M23 is, right? And it's like moving and moving and moving. And that to me is the power. Is like it's not in an article and it's not on the. It's
and
like
it goes
simple,
back to the
simple,
simplifying.
simple.
Yeah,
simple.
And messaging. I mean, it was the same thing when you look at. So my background before this was running around Southeast Asia, mainly the Thai-Burmese border, getting chucked in a few prisons in Burma and East Timor and various other places. And while I was doing it, I sat down with Aung San Suu Kyi in Burma while she was under house arrest in NLD headquarters in 1999. And as everyone here happily knows, she's just completed her tour of the US for the first time after decades of house arrest. And when you see the markers in how that came about, it was actually, the stickers that Shepard Fairey did and the few spots that Jack Healy put together with a few amazing celebrities speaking out on Aung San Suu Kyi's behalf, that really were a huge turning point there. And that, again, is simplified messaging. And I think there's a danger that people shy away from simplified messaging because they get criticized for oversimplifying really complex issues. But in the end, that's where you get the hook, and that's where people continue to learn more.
When you're saying, that it runs the risk of looking like a simplified message, but, when I hear you guys talk about the things that you've done, it sounds like you've created things that are just sort of inherently shareable. And, that seems to be one of the, things that social does really, really well. Are there things that you guys have created for your companies that have been shared widely?
Well, I think for Mulu, one of the lessons has been reaching people where they already are, and that may be on their social networks like Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. It also may be in the content that they consume. So we started out by saying, look, every single thing you buy online, you can take 10% of that and you can put it towards a cause. That's a massive opportunity, and it's a massive waste to not do it. We're not talking about just things you can buy. We're talking about airline tickets, hotel reservations. Every dollar you spend online, you can take 10% of it and put it towards a cause. And no one was doing it. Nobody knew about it. So we started out saying, OK, come to Mulu, our central destination, so you can do this. And then once we built partnerships with publishers like Hearst and studios like Universal, and allowed people to do that exact same thing, but do it in the content site that they already were at, buying products that were mentioned in content they were already reading, all of a sudden it exploded. And so for us, that was a real lesson, and I think you can take it into social media as well, to not try and change habits, and it goes back to the cause having to be gravy. You don't need to change all the habits. You just need to get them where they already are and speak to them about whatever the one point is, whether it's Congo, it's eco, it's safety. You don't need to change everything. Reach them where they already are.
So we look at social media as gasoline. Our clients are in desperate need during product recalls. So, if you have a fire, it can get really, really big fast. And if you don't have a fire, you can have a sticky floor and it can evaporate. I mean, that's how we view social media. So often it can work to our benefit or it cannot. And so we choose to empower our clients with the best software and tools that they can have so that they can do what they need to do. Previous to Consumer Bell, I helped run corporate campaigns for Macy's.com. And there were certain processes there that I initiated that I carried with us at Consumer Bell that we widely share. We have social media handbooks. We have like a 21-page Twitter guideline, even for our small company. We have a SlideShare channel. I'm on a board for the FDA Advisory Committee on Consumer Representatives. And I actually help and train how to make a SlideShare and how to do these other things for companies, but it can go either way, and you have to really figure out which tools work for and against you.
Well, that's you're alluding to, the idea of putting something out there on social media and things not going as planned, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you guys about. There's plenty of examples of social media successes out there. Have you guys had any experiences where what you put out there either was disastrous or just didn't turn out the way that you expected and taught you something that was entirely new?
Yeah. I did. I went to I didn't realize that I was posting as me instead of as Facebook. I mean, instead of his Ecomom. And I posted, actually vice versa, and I posted on our Ecomom wall something political, which I would never do because I try to stay away from that because I don't think it's fair to tell my customers how to think, and I don't think they need to know so much about how we think. They have a good sense of where our head's at. But I posted something very political and very, not controversial, but I was really I was loud about it. And about a minute later, I had this just bad, terrible feeling like I had done something wrong, and I realized, oh my God, I forgot to change to me again. And I went back to Ecomom, and there was already somebody who was leaving our company. She was not going to buy from us anymore because of this. And I decided that the best way to solve the problem was to actually, since I created the problem in public, was to solve the problem in public. So I just went back on Facebook and said, I made a mistake. That was for my personal wall. You're entitled to think whatever you want. We try to stay out of stuff like that, and I apologize for bringing my personal politics onto our wall. They have no business here. And within about 10 minutes, this, what could have been a crisis because people had started liking her thing, turned into about 75 sub-posts of people saying, wow, we really appreciate you being honest, and we totally agree, and you can believe whatever you want. One of the things we like about you guys is that you guys are honest. So it could have been an absolute nightmare, but I was fortunate enough to catch it. But I could see how that could be, it could be disastrous.
So Jody has, first of all, a black belt in branding. If you follow him on Twitter or Facebook, that's no secret. But this has happened a couple times where they've really leveraged engagement. We, Consumer Bell and Ecomom, we have a lot of synergies, obviously.
Wait, have I done this before, again?
Well, not to that extent.
Okay.
So remember when you were having server issues, your traffic was spiking, the site was
Oh,
going
last
down.
year,
Yeah, and there was a couple snippets with that. He would just post and say on the wall of Ecomom, look, we're having issues, it's growth, it's traffic, and he would say, sign Jody. And so it wasn't this faceless, 16-year-old social media coordinator. It was like, look, I'm Jody Sherman. I'm stopping a CEO to go and barely figure out, I don't even know half the time if I'm posting a CEO or Ecomom, no, I'm kidding, but you're on the page. And, just owning up to it. And people loved it. You'd have like 97 likes in like an hour, and people would be like, we still love you. Let us know when we can use our coupon or when can we order.
Yeah, they actually sent us pizza and beer while we were trying to fix the
yeah,
problem. To the office.
So that's
Customer
a perfect example of really taking ownership.
Just authenticity.
And driving that.
You know?
Yeah.
Totally.
So we have about 8 minutes left or so, and I wanted to open it up to people sitting here to ask questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand sort of now or at any point so we can get a mic to you before you ask. Yeah.
How's it going? This is Joe again. The question I have is, I live in Austin, Texas, actually, and Austin is a great giving community. It's something like third in the country per capita for a number of nonprofits. But the issue is that Austin is like 48th in giving. So people give their time and they support and they start nonprofits, but they're struggling with the money. So how can companies and enterprises focused on social goodness use technology, use social media as a way to reach potential donors or to help their message stand out above the others that may be focused on similar issues?
Yeah. By the way, I'm loving all the Austin, Texas love here.
I know, this is a big Austin crowd.
John Patillo and I knew each other when I was like 16 years old, and I was backpacking in Colorado. John and I are good friends from way back when. This is like great reunion. And both of you guys are like proud ATXers. Brooke as well, like college buddies. This is so fun. I mean, here's we've done a lot of work in Austin, and I think that for us, let me give you like a little bit of a backstory. When we first started, we started with $5. I was in my buddy's attic. I just got back from the war zone. I'm like screaming at people, right? Kids are dying. This is real. We started selling whistles out of our pockets, just like saying, go and speak for peace. And we started, we made $150 from our $5, and we wanted to reach the whole world. So we flew David Lewis, who now runs a company, to Austin, Texas. And David did an event there where we raised another $150. And from there, like the crew in Austin was like, we've got your back. We want you to go across the country. And so they started like just tweeting out to friends, like, hey, there's this guy named David who's going to come to Dallas. And then there's this guy named David who's going to, and he just starts going across the South hitchhiking. Sticks his thumb out. He's got a box full of whistles, and he hitchhikes through 40 cities, from Austin, Texas to New York City over the course of 4 months. And he's sitting down in living rooms, coffee shops, and he's just like, look, we don't have all the answers, but 6 million people have died, and we're not going to be quiet till it's changed. Join us. And he builds a coalition from scratch. And it's like, this was because in every city, people are tweeting out to the next city, hey, there's this guy coming, right? And then like, instead of there being 5 people at the coffee shop, there's 15 people. And then instead of 15 people, there's like 40 people. And by the time he's getting up to like, up along the East Coast, I mean, he'd have 100 people waiting for him at a coffee shop. People he had never met, but who were just like, what's going on? He inspired 3 college students who rode their bikes across the country, right? All tweeting the whole time. And I think for us, it's like less about meeting the donors and less about meeting the customers and more about creating the engagement, like creating the experience, the connection of like, we all care about this and we're all into this for the long term. Because we know that if you create those connections, it will translate into dollars. So go for the people, you know what I mean? Go for the relationships and the experience first. Even if they can't give money or spend or whatever now, they will later. And their word of mouth and their energy and all of that, whether it's social or not, will translate to dollars.
The other thing to bear in mind is that there are things you can do now through social media that actually allow real dollars to go to real causes without those dollars coming out of your pocket, right? And I think Shamar and I were talking about this earlier, but there used to be this kind of zero-sum game problem where if I believed in something and made a donation, I've donated $1, now I no longer have that dollar in my pocket, right? And in a bad economy or a tough winter, that's a hard thing to ask somebody to do. But now through, I mean, part of what Mulu does is allow retailers to thank you for referrals by giving money from their bottom line to your cause. And there are a number of other programs, you remember with Haiti, when you would tweet certain things, you know, telephone companies or others would match your donations. And I think being able to reach out to retailers and say, in order to spread the word about what you're doing, allowing people's own recommendations or own viral activity to generate real dollars that don't come out of their bank account is a very, very powerful thing. And we've seen that with the content that we've made shoppable on big publishing sites where the advertising around the outside gets a 0.2% click-through rate. These areas where they can buy products on behalf of charity get 12 to 13% click-through rates. And giving people that opportunity to give to a charity without actually having to reach into their own bank account is really, really powerful.
I think there's also this idea of, like, I have a bunch of friends who all want to start nonprofits. And, you know, I'm a nonprofit. I'm a startup that uses other people's money to build our business, right? By definition, we're not profitable. But I think you can attach yourself to a cause and be a for-profit business. And like I said earlier, use your sales as fundraising. Tom's does it. We do it. Warby Parker does it. Lots of companies do it. You do it. Where you can find a cause for which you're really passionate and that aligns with your customers' interests as well.
Yeah.
You know, we picked the one that was the most obvious, feeding kids in America, because our customers happen to take care of kids in America. And if you let them do something that they're going to do anyway, so that they're not taking additional money out of their pocket, to your point, and they're just doing something they would have to do anyway, they would tend to vote with their dollars by buying from the place where, in addition to getting the thing they need at a price that's fair or a service that they need at a price that's fair, there's some extra goodness that comes with it.
There was this year this great Edelman study that took 2 items that were identical in quality and price and looked at 50 other factors that would decide which one a shopper would buy. And the number 1 factor is if there's social good attached to one of those items. It makes it 26% more likely that the shopper will buy that item. And we've seen this borne out in a number of different industries and a number of different examples, but to be able to use that and say that, you know, it's just a false choice, this whole, oh, am I in it for purpose or am I in it for profit? They actually are mutually reinforcing, and we've seen that over and over again, and I think that's a story that's really exciting to tell now.
I think at the end of the day, social cause, it does work on the freemium model. You know, get the users first, monetize later. You know, get the gospel, get people using it, and figure out how to monetize it later. Maybe I think of social cause too much in software terms, but that's how I see it. It's just getting people using and interacting first.
So I should give my product away for free and then feed
It's
children?
like a loss leader.
Sure. So we probably have time for, I think, one more question. Let's see. Jason? Yeah.
Sean, this one kind of loops back to your story about the hitchhiker across and you're asking people to tweet. How are you, or any of you, leveraging these key influencers within, they aren't Jay-Z, they're just Joe Schmo. How are you leveraging them?
You shine a light on them, right? You shine a light on them. Like, we have this woman named Mary Brady who I use all the time as an example because she's the most vocal of all of our customers. And we tweet at her, we Facebook at her. I pick up the phone and call her. Our team knows her. When you find people like that who are very active, you don't have to stay in social media. We used to be social before the internet, right? Probably a lot more social than we are now. You can reach out to them and talk to them, and you'd be shocked when you pick up the phone and talk to somebody or write them a note how much more connected you are with them. I had a customer yesterday that was saying something on our Facebook about she's sick of pink washing. And she wasn't going to buy from us anymore because we're donating to Keep Abreast. But she didn't read the whole thing. She thought we were donating to Susan B. Komen. And she's like, do you know they take money from companies that have products with bad ingredients in it? I'm not going to buy from you anymore. And I could have gotten into a conversation with her on Facebook, and I wouldn't have had anywhere near the power I had by picking up the phone as the CEO of the company and saying, I don't want to lose you as a customer. Tell me what's wrong. And now she's a new brand advocate for us. You know, and I think that you can find people like that, who the Joe Schmo, somebody who doesn't have any notoriety, and you can give them more notoriety by just engaging in a conversation with them. And if other people are following your brand and see you engaging with that person becomes more, they become more weighty.
So we were like that as well. Going back to my freemium model, we had this really cool service that we had conjured up in our lab that would help detect anything in your inventory as being recalled. And the hardest thing we had in selling it was either retailers didn't want to know, or they were convinced that their products were fine and absolutely perfect. And so that's where we said, you know what, just use it and we'll see what happens. And within the first month of beta, 4 clients were like, oh my God, we sent them alert, and they're like, oh my God, I'm selling something recalled. We're like, Like, how big's your inventory? So how much has that changed within a year? So if we found one recall in 30 days with your inventory at 1,000 SKUs, and you're going to do 12,000 SKUs this year, that's going to be, oh, you're going to have a dozen recalls this year. And all of a sudden it changes that person from being skeptical to being educated to then now like praising your service. So that's the note we take.
I mean, we're a little bit different because we're building a coalition, right? So, but in the end, like if you're building a customer base, you're building a coalition. Let's be honest. We're just channeling ours towards like major advocacy goals. So, but like we have an entire department of our company that's exclusively dedicated to building relationships with people across the world, connecting them to one another, and making sure they've got the resources to learn, understand, and reach out to anybody they want at any time.
And
so
telling
they're
those
like
individual stories, right?
They're on the. I mean, our people are on the phone with high schoolers, with college kids, whatever. Yeah. We've got a thing called a Whistler Society in about 25 cities where people are meeting weekly, and they're essentially small groups of people who are dedicated to whistleblowing. So every week they're studying the history of human freedom and like the revolutions that have taken place to get us to this place and what it will take to sort of get us to the next place, right? They're learning about these things. They're going out and educating other people about these things, and we're like feeding them books, documentaries, art. We're pumping them with content. They're pumping us with stories. We're sharing those stories with other Whistler societies and connecting them to one another. And none of that is like sales driven, and yet all of that is sales driven.
Well, and those are the stories that are actually the most resonant with a regular user, because you can say Jay-Z is doing this until you're blue in the face, but most people when they see it are like, well, I'm not Jay-Z and I don't have millions of followers, so am I going to have any impact at all? If you can shine a spotlight on someone that looks reasonably like the person you're talking to and say, look at the impact that this person had with their regular followers and their regular life just like you really do send this message of you can do it, we can do it, it's your responsibility to do it, why aren't you? And I think it ends up being a lot more powerful than the celebrity endorsements.
I actually think celebrity activism can have a negative effect, right? It's like, if he can do in 5 minutes what it would take me 5 months to do, why would I even try?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm very interested in that 15-year-old trying, right, for 5 months. I think that shifts all of our businesses and the world a lot more.
I'm sorry to have to cut it at that, but we have extended our time. But thank you guys all for being up here.
Totally. That's right. That's right.